Thanks. Welcome back. I'm Bill Quinn, and I am joined today by David Cross of U.S. Asset Management. And David, thank you very much for making time for us today. I know you're a busy guy.
My pleasure, Bill. Thanks for having me.
So, we've seen in past weeks, I guess months now, some amazing moves in metals markets, very especially silver. And a lot of people have questions. I know you are working daily with your clientele to help them understand what we're seeing and help them with their individual thoughts and choices. Let me ask you, give us the overview. What do you think is going on and what should people have their eyes on as they consider this?
Yeah, so silver was very dormant for a long period of time, and it's just recently come into the national discussion recently because of the price movement that's happened. So before we jump into that, I just need to put a little disclaimer. If you can show it up there, we're going to be discussing financial markets and investments, in this case, silver. I'm not going to be making any specific recommendations to you as an individual. My comments are provided as a courtesy and for educational purposes only. Please consult your investment professional, legal, or other advisors about specific information regarding your situation. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, silver's price has just gone absolutely crazy this year. And you got a lot of people out there that are like looking at silver eagles. We've seen a lot of interest in like old junk silver, Morgan
Mhm.
dollars, peace dollars, and even people out there buying bars and things like that. And a lot of the discussion has been centered around some news that I think some of it is correct and some of it's not. So if you flip to the first slide, what we'll
Yep.
see here is obviously what's going on with silver. That's the discussion today. Next slide. All right. This is the current price. So silver this morning was $76 per ounce. It hit a high of 83 a couple of times here in the last couple of weeks, and it's really taken off. On the next slide, what we're going to see is this guy has been everywhere. I've got a lot of clients and a lot of folks that are calling me and saying, I saw this video where this guy is talking about what's going on with silver. And some of the things that are in this is correct, and some of what this guy is putting out is not correct. And I don't really know if it's artificial intelligence. It certainly looks like it to me. I don't know how they're pumping out this much information, but you do have to be aware that when you start to see a narrative that's being pushed as aggressively as this, you really need to put your thinking cap on and talk to trusted advisors. On the next slide, what we're going to see is there's been this big call out there that China banned exports of silver. And that's not entirely true. So, what's happened is that they have really tightened down the people who can export. So, right now, China refines about 70% of all the silver that is produced in the world. And just recently, they said, hey, if you're not producing at least 80 tons per year of a specific quality, smaller refiners are going to be excluded from exporting. So that's part of it's true and part of it's not true. On the next slide, what we can see is this is not the first time this has happened, right? So earlier this year, President Trump said that he had declared silver a strategic mineral for the United States of America. That's the first time that's ever happened. The closest time we got to that was in 1963 when President Kennedy halted sales of silver by the Treasury Department because people there was the value of silver was going up, and he was saying it really has more of an impact and a value as a strategic metal. Most people don't know this, but silver is used extensively in producing missiles. And what was going on in the 1960s when the Cold War was really ramping up? Lots of missile production. So I think the government needed silver, but not for money. On the next slide, what we can see is what's been happening with inflation. So this is just from 2016, the last 10 years. Inflation is up huge. I mean, the index starts at 240 and now it's at around it's roughly 330. That's about a 30% increase. And everybody has seen this, and the price of houses have gone up, the price of silver has gone up, the price of gold's
Mhm.
gone up, the price of food has gone up. Everything has pretty much gone up in price. On the next slide, what we'll see is what's happened with the national debt. So take a look at what happened just in the last several years. When COVID occurred, the United States government went into even more debt. They had to make payments to small businesses so people could stay in business. And our source on this is the United States government. So this is coming from the Treasury. But right now, we just recently crested over $38 trillion in debt. And on the next slide, we can see exactly how the debt is produced. It comes from running a deficit. So when you hear those words in the news, debt and deficit are two different things. Deficit just means that you're not bringing in as much money as you're spending. And so what do people do? They put it on their credit card. What does the government do? They add it to the national debt. On the next slide, you can see how much the debt has been increasing over time. So just like in the last 10 years, we've seen the national debt go up over $10 trillion. So it's been a huge number. And when the debt goes up and the government doesn't have enough money to pay their bills, they print money. So on the next slide, what we can see is what's happened with the money supply. And the money supply relative to gold and silver. So in August of 1971, President Nixon took us off the gold standard. From that time until now, the money supply in the United States has gone up 9,000%. That's that big red line that's over there. Silver has gone up about 4,000%, 3,500%, and gold has gone up about 2,600%. In my estimation, my opinion, what you will see over time is you will see these lines merge at some point. I don't think that the money supply is going to go down very much, which tells me that the price of gold and silver could go up to meet that line. Now, just because they've gone up so much recently doesn't mean that they're going to continue to go up to reach that red line. We're in a period right now where there's a lot of volatility. And volatility is another finance term for lose a lot of money fast. So you can sometimes see the price of silver move tremendously, or you can see the price of gold and even the price of platinum moving a couple $100 per ounce on the big metals. And on silver, you could see it moving $3, $4, $5, $6 an ounce in a single day. So the bottom line is we could see the price of gold and silver continue to move higher to go up and reach the money supply line. And that's what I think will happen over time. But again, this is not advice. You have to talk to your own advisor. You've got to do your own homework. Me personally, I personally own a fair amount of these things, and I own silver bars. And in the next video, we're going to talk about if these are the kinds of things that you want to own, how do you make sure that what you're buying is true and correct and not a fake? Because when the price of these things gets up to $70 to $80 a piece, and the price of a bar gets up to $800 for a 10-ounce bar, that invites a fair amount of counterfeiting. So we're going to cover that in the next slide. And I invite anybody to reach out to us with any questions. Reach out to me at david.cross@us-am.com. Go to our website, us-am.com. Reach out to us. Let us know what your questions and concerns are. We'll do our best to help you.
Just a couple clarifying questions, if I could, David. So
Sure.
one is, and I think you alluded to this in your opening statements. Everybody's situation can be different, could be dramatically different. And while it looks like the market for silver is increasing, it's important that folks get some thoughts put together, perhaps guidance that helps make this make sense in their situation, which could be very different than their neighbors or someone else in their family. Yes.
Yeah. And so again, you have to understand that investments in silver, investments in gold, they're considered speculative. So you have to be careful with what you're doing. You don't want to put all your eggs into one basket. I know some people that have, and they're very happy right now, but that happiness could turn into tears in a very short period of time just because of the volatility that we see with these things. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. And then the other thing that occurs to me is as things change, you showed how those lines might converge. And then as they do, there may be other considerations, other things for folks to begin to consider. In the longer term, you handle a lot of different types of assets and many different situations for folks. So I think that's important for folks to know as they think about whether they need some guidance and who they choose to involve themselves with to get that guidance, to get that read on the market, as it were.
Yeah, you really need to be working with somebody who understands finance, who understands economic principles. And there's a lot of financial advisors out there today that are saying, oh my gosh, you should not own gold and silver. They're just going to collect dust in your safe. And in a time when we have stable money, meaning that the government's not printing a bunch of it, I would say that's probably largely true. But we don't live like that right now. Our government is spending way more money than is coming in, and they're making up for the shortfall by printing more money. When they print more money, it makes the price of things go up. So if you want to read about or learn a little bit more about this, check on YouTube, look for some videos with Milton Friedman. He's a noted economist, and he will tell you that inflation is created in Washington, D.C.
Wow. Something to consider. David, we will look forward to having you back soon. Let me put up the slide we had just a moment ago so folks can once again consult that. And we will look forward to hearing more in, as you said, the next video.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.